Welcome back, guys, to another training vlog. If you guys are joining us again, I appreciate it. If you guys are just now joining us, thank you for stopping by and checking out the content. Okay, so something I want to get into here. I have a issue, man, with some people. I can't stand it whenever you have individuals who sit there and say you can't do something because whatever reason, right? They're like, well, you can't do that or it doesn't work. And you ask them like, well, why doesn't it work? Well, because the science said. So, okay, well, have you ever tried it? Well, the science said it, but you've never actually tried it. You just heard someone else say it, so you believe it. Well, yeah. Or the opposite end of the spectrum is, well, I tried it. Okay, for how long? Like 2 weeks, and it didn't work. So you gave it a whopping 2 weeks. You gave it a legitimate 2 weeks to try this theory, to attempt this thesis, and you had no results or negative results on your experiment without even actually giving it a legitimate 3 to 6 months to actually experiment to see if this is going to work. So the reason why I bring this up, well, let me get your thought on this right now. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I agree. Like there's lots of people that they bring something up and then you ask them like why it is that they feel that way, and their response is like, well, like the studies say or the science says, kind of thing. But it's like there's never going to be a one way fits all for fitness, for exercise, for bodybuilding, anything like that. It's always going to be what works for the individual. Like nothing's always going to pan out like everybody does the same exact thing and everybody gets the same exact results 100% of the time. It's not going to work out that way. But there's lots of people that will go because they saw it in a video or read it somewhere that it said like this, but you look back a little bit further and it said something else. Look back a little further from that, it said something else, kind of thing. And it's just not going to pan out like that. Now it's this way and this is how it's always going to be, kind of thing, because it's going to change again.
Right, I agree with that, because it's like, let's say you start off doing high volume and you get great results, but then you plateau because your body gets used to it. And then you switch it up to high intensity, low volume, then you start getting results again. And then you're like, oh man, this is the way to train. What I was doing was wrong. Like that was a waste of time. It's like, well, the only reason why this is working now is because you're not used to it and your body is receiving a new stimulus that it's not used to. Because if you would have started with high intensity and took that as far as it could go, and then you change up to high volume, your body would respond to that too. And then you'd be saying the same thing about this that you are about that. Like no matter what you do, who you watch, no matter what influencer or what social media guru or whoever you're watching, if you go far enough back, I guarantee you they're going to be saying stuff that contradicts the stuff they're saying now. And if you go further back from that, they're going to be saying stuff that contradicts that. And you go far enough back, and I guarantee you the pendulum swung full circle all the way around. Well, it swung all the way to the other end and back. I guarantee you it happened. That's just the way it is. Like, so when people say like, oh, you can't do this because the science says, or, oh, well, this guy has a bigger following than you, or this guy has a bigger platform than you, so he must know what he's talking about. It just irritates me, man, so much. Like, for instance, right now I'm currently getting 530 grams of protein a day. I have never eaten this much protein before in my life, right? Never. I've always got about like maybe 300, 350 is the most I've ever taken on a single day. Well, I've been consistently taking in 530 grams of protein every single day. I'm about 300 carbohydrates. My fat, I don't know, because I try to avoid as much fat as possible. Everything I get is fat-free or as low as fat as possible, right? And these are probably some of the best results I've been getting of lately, right? I'm losing body fat. I'm eating right at 4,000 calories a day when I total everything up. And I'm losing body fat. I'm putting on muscle. I'm training 6 days a week. I'm doing 32 sets per body part, split into 2 workouts with 16 sets per workout per body part. Doing 12 minutes of cardio at night, and I go on 2 10 to 20 minute walks a day. And I'm eating a ridiculous amount of protein. And then I've had people tell me, your body can't process that. It's going to turn it to glucose. It's going to turn it to carbohydrates. It's a waste of money. It's expensive protein, blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay, but it's working. See, what you don't understand is this is working for me right now. It's something I've never done before, and it's yielding me wonderful results. So I'm not going to stop just because you read somewhere that I shouldn't be doing this, because I'm going to do something that I've never done before, because I want results I've never had before. And it's either going to pan out and work for me, or it's not. And if it doesn't work, see, I'm doing a science experiment on my own body, trying to figure out what works best for me and my body. So I don't care what the science said for this guy's body or what this double-blind study says, because the problem with those studies are, how many people were in it? Were they all in the lab? Were they all put on the same diets, the same programs, the same routines, the same intensity? Were they all at the same age and the same experience of training? Or were they just randomly picked and then given a routine and diet and said, go home and do this and report back in 3 months and let's see where you're at? Like, that's a problem with these studies. You can't keep people accountable to make sure they're following it 100%. Then you get the data and then it's just like, oh, well, this is what the majority of the people experienced or saw results. But who are the people? And what was the actual study? And was it controlled? Like, legitimately, let's put these people in a camp for 6 months, have them all eat the exact same food, take the exact same supplements, do the exact same workouts, with the exact same intensity for 6 months straight, and have no interaction with anything but this program, and see what the actual end all results are, and be about the same age, the same group, the same physical fitness level, everything. Like, until you show me a study like that, I don't care about your science, because the science back in the 60s, 70s, 50s, and 40s, those guys didn't have science. They just worked out and ate a lot of food, and they worked out hard. And then to this day, the golden era, the golden era, the golden era, the golden era, the golden era of bodybuilding. That's the best era. That's the best time for body. The bodies look the best. They look the best. But those are the guys that were doing the most volume, spending 5-6 hours a day in the gym, doing 2 a day, 7 days a week. But, oh, you can't do that because the science said your central nervous system can't handle it, and you're going to fatigue, and that's overtraining. Granted, football players can practice and play football, but you can't work out and then work out. But you can practice football, play football, do cardio, run drills, work out, lift weights, and have a social life being a football player. But you cannot work out and then work out again the next day. That's just going to destroy your gains.
Yeah. Like I had a discussion today with somebody that was based on like him talking about studies and stuff like that because of the form from some of the videos. And it came down to me asking him, okay, like, well, what is correct form? And he's trying to tell me off of like studies and whatever else that correct form is strict, like staying perfectly perpendicular to the movement and all this other stuff and things like that. But I was like, okay, if that's what works for you, that's what you do then. But if I try it and it hurts my shoulders or something like that, I'm not going to stick to that. I'm going to move in a different way that doesn't hurt my shoulders and allows me to still complete the workout because I still want to complete the workout. It's like if I'm doing like pull downs, like today, if I'm doing pull downs, I'm not going to not do the movement because like I'm in a certain way, like perfectly strict form, because I might have a shoulder impingement. But if I lean back like we do, I don't get that shoulder impingement. I'm still working the lat. I'm still pulling down. I'm still getting the work on the lat like I need to. And everything works out fine for me. If the guy wants to do it his way, that's you do it your way kind of thing. But that's how it is, like, I think with every exercise. You find what works best for you. It's like some people are going to tell you that when you bench press, you got to go wide on it, or you got to stay narrow. You got to tuck in. You got to tuck, keep your like elbows out, flare them and stuff. But it's more or less, it's what's comfortable for you. Like you can try the other stuff, but all the other stuff just bothers you when doing it. Why are you going to force yourself to do it that way when you have a way that's comfortable for you, feels good, and you get the best out of it doing it your way kind of thing?
Yeah, just like right here, your form right here, right? You're getting a good stretch at the top. Look, you're getting a good stretch at the top, and then you get a contraction, a hard contraction in the bottom. Now, you're already fatigued at this part in the set. But earlier, you were holding the contraction as long as you could and doing a controlled negative and a good stretch. And now you're fatigued, so you're just clanging and banging. Sometimes you just, like right here on this movement for me, I don't care about squeezing and flexing. I just want to move the weight on this one. That's all I care about on this exercise right here is I just want to move the weight. Honestly, I don't care where it hits. I'm just gonna throw some weight up because it's a movement that I could put a lot of weight and just go ham on it. Whenever you're on a certain exercise, like the pull downs, like this guy was talking about, it's like, oh, you have to keep your back perfectly straight up and down. Well, have you ever done a pull up? Have you ever done a pull up? When you do a pull up, you don't bring your head to the bar. You bring your chest to the bar. In order to bring the chest to the bar, you have to arch your back and throw your chest up. And you have to push your chest out to get the chest to the bar to get a full, actual good pull up. unless you're doing a behind the neck pull up. So for him to say, oh, well, this form, well, what form are you going off of, right? And like what you said, everybody's different. Mechanical leverages are different depending on the length of your back, the length of your forearms, the length of your actual upper arm, your shoulder, your joint placement, your impingement, your body, your skeletal makeup. Everybody's leverages are different. And it might feel different to someone than someone else doing it one way versus another. And then on top of that, your elbow placement, whether you flare your elbows out or tuck your elbows in, that hits a different part of the back. If you're doing wide grip pull downs and you're pulling your elbows inwards to your side versus flaring your elbows out, it's going to feel completely different. If you're doing close grip pull downs and you flare your elbows out to the side as wide as you can, you're going to feel it in the center of your back. If you tuck your elbows as hard as you can to your ribs, you're going to feel it more in your lats. So saying this way's wrong, this way's right, it just depends on where you're trying to feel it and what you're trying to accomplish on that movement. Just like for these straight arm pull downs right here, the wider you go, the more of the center back you feel it. The closer you go, the more of the lat you feel. At least that's how it feels for me with the way my mechanics are set up on my body. And you can say, no, it's not individual. It's everybody, blah, 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 blah. But like I said, if many times before, if you don't feel it where you're supposed to feel it, chances are your leverages or your mechanical makeup or your imbalances or impingements, or there's something going on that's preventing you from feeling it the way you should be feeling it. Whether you need to work on your mobility, you need to work on building up the weaker areas, or you just got to figure out the proper grip and hand placement to feel it the way you need to feel it, because everyone's going to feel it different. It's just like all these internet gurus is like anyone who has a phone with a TikTok account or a YouTube account or a platform or Twitter, they feel like they have the experience to tell people everything there is to know. And they're like, this way is the way to do it. Listen, well, I explained to you how I got my 14-inch cannons over the course of the last 6 weeks. Okay, I've been doing this for 6 weeks. Okay, I've watched a lot of YouTube videos in the last 6 weeks while I worked out my 14-inch cannon, so I can explain to you what's going on and how to do this. And they're just regurgitating what they heard. And the problem is they probably heard something that sounded better than what they knew or what they learned, or they learned something new. And now they're like, oh my God, this is it. This is the gospel. This is what it is. And they haven't done it long enough to figure out that eventually whatever you're doing, you're going to have to change it up.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, just like the topic we've brought up before, like overtraining, people saying like, if you do however many sets you do or whatever, and that's too much kind of thing. But again, like you were saying, like back then people trained 2-3 times a day and that was their normal. Now you train once and they tell you got to take freaking 3 or 4 days off or whatever. That's the studies and the science and stuff like that. But again, it's what works for the person or whatever. If that's what works for you and you're getting growth out of it and seeing your results the way you want to see them and stuff like that, then yes, do that. That's working for you. But if you do an exercise, like you work out one day and you work out that muscle group and you burn it out or whatever it is, but then 2 days later, you're like, you know what, I'm good or whatever, and you decide to work it out again, there should be no reason why you shouldn't be able to do that again and continue to get growth out of it.
Yeah, it's about recovery time, right? Everybody recovers at a different rate, and it depends on if you're doing more volume or more intensity, and it depends on your workload and how much you're eating. If you're eating enough, you're sleeping enough, you're drinking enough fluid, and then depending on your workload and what you're doing, if you can recover from it, you can train as often, as frequently as your body recovers. It comes down to recovery. It's not some like actual like exact amount of reps and sets. This is the magic number of reps and sets, and this is how long you should do a set. A set should take you 42.39 seconds, and then you should be able to exert this much of outforce and blah 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 and put a muscle stimulus. No, that's nonsense. It comes down to how much you're eating, how much you're drinking. If you're eating 1,200 calories a day, doing an hour of cardio, and then you're trying to go to the gym 6 days a week, that's too much. Like if you don't believe me, I don't. In fact, if there's any doubt in your mind right now about that, go and do it. Do it for a month. Do it for 3 months, and then tell me how you feel. Right? It's just not going to be maintainable. But if you're eating enough food for the amount of output that you're doing, and you're recovering from it, there is no excuse why you can't train more frequently. If your goal is hypertrophy. Could you imagine Michael Jordan showing up to a game being like, hey, coach, I can't play because, 2 days ago I did some squats in the gym, and my legs need at least 4 days for recovery. So I'm gonna have to sit this one out. Could you imagine?
Yeah.
Could you imagine if LeBron James or JJ Watt like, hey, sorry, coach, can't get in there because I did some bicep curls 3 days ago, and I'm not ready. I messed up. It's Sunday. I thought we weren't playing till Monday. I worked out on Thursday. I'm not there yet, man. I'm not there yet. I don't want to overtrain my biceps here. Could you imagine?
Yeah, it's like the topic that you brought up with me before of someone like looking at a workout or whatever and saying like overtraining or whatever. Like if you do more than 12 reps on your bicep or your quad or whatever muscle or whatever is like that's overtraining or whatever. So like if you're going to train, like you can only do freaking 11 of them because you got to save that one for when you're not working out for just in case you have to move.
Yeah, exactly right. It's like, well, I pick up heavy chain falls and come alongs and impacts all day for a living, so I'm constantly bending over, picking stuff up and curling it up to about chest high to hang things on hooks. The things I work on are they weigh upwards of 60 pounds, and I'm picking them up and curling them about chest high and hooking them. So I guess I shouldn't be doing curls because I do that for 8 hours a day for 5 days a week, and I guess my arms are overtrained.
Yeah, you hit that quota, and then freaking like that's it. Like you can't pick up any more things.
Freaking quotas, man. God, man, those quotas get me every time, and I forget about those. Like the 10,000 steps. And right now, the big thing is 10,000 steps. Everyone's going about 10,000 steps. Get at least 10,000 steps. Is that good information? Sure, yeah. Movement, right? It's just about movement. But are you going to get to 10,000 steps and be like, oh, crap, I'm at 10,000. I still got to go to the grocery store tonight. Why did I take those few extra steps? Why didn't I park closer to my office? Or why did I have to go inside the gas station tonight? Why? No, you're not even going to think about it. You're just going to keep walking. And do you think your calves know the difference? You think your calves are going to be like, well, buddy, I'm checked out. That's 10,000 steps today. Looks like I'm going to start shrinking. I'm shrinking because you went over 10,000. No, that's nonsense, man. Like if your body is still brutally sore after 4 days of training, you're either not eating enough or you are legitimately going too hard. And what I mean by too hard is you may not be there yet. You may not be ready for that. Or you might just be one of those guys that drank too much caffeine and you just got to destroy the world, right? And then I've been there and I've done that before. And I love those days. But if you do a workout like that and you're 4 days, 5 days sore afterwards, like you're going to have to use better judgment, But here's the kicker about that. There's this thing, right? There's this crazy thing called active recovery. I don't know if y'all heard of it or not, but it's called active recovery. And there are people that train their faces off. And instead of sitting around in an air-conditioned room, right, having their wives or girlfriends or boyfriends bring them everything, weight on them hand and foot, they get up and they move, or they do light work or light exercises or light cardio, and to target those muscles directly to get blood back in there, because the fastest way your body heals is through blood flow. Your blood carries the nutrients to the area that's damaged to recover it. So the more blood you can pump in there, the faster your recovery is going to be. But if you don't have any nutrients in your blood, then your recovery is going to be extremely slow because it cannot build what it does not have, right? It's like trying to build a house with no bricks. I don't care how many carpenters you hire. If you don't have the materials, you're not going to build anything. Your food is your building blocks. I know that's a overused statement, but it's true. I mean, it really is.
Yeah, I agree. So, but yeah. Anyway, it was a good workout tonight, though.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot, man. I got in there and hit it really hard. I had a phenomenal back pump, even though my form was all messed up and I wasn't doing it correctly, apparently, And that's the thing too, I'm planning on competing next year. I don't know at what time next year, but I am planning on competing next year. And if my form is all jacked up and preventing me from getting results to where I lose my competition, I'll make adjustments. And if my form is jacked up, but my body looks good and my joints don't hurt, that's the biggest thing. If your joints don't hurt, my joints aren't hurting, I'm clanging and banging, baby. I'm not slowing down or stopping. I'm going to keep on going like I did tonight, man, because my pump was just phenomenal. My chest, this is the heaviest I've gone on flies, on cable flies, and with the most amount of reps since I've torn my pec and had surgery. Tonight I did 50 pounds, and I can't remember how many reps. We could probably go back and count them, but I'm not going to. But that was the most reps I've done with 50 pounds on the high cable crossovers, and I went to 40 pounds on the low cable crossovers. I don't remember how many I got, but that's the most I've gotten since my surgery. And you know what? You could be like, well, you're doing too much. Well, I haven't felt this good in my pec since I started doing this much volume. This blood, man, this blood heals the body. So
Yep.
maybe the movie Blade had it right. You know, all those people have like the blood sprinklers.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
Good stuff.
but anything else, Dad? Or is that got it all off your chest?
Yeah, that's pretty much it for today.
All right, yeah, I think that's going to wrap this one up, guys. Again, if you guys are returning viewers, thank you guys for stopping in and watching. If you guys are new, I really appreciate you guys checking out the content and stopping in and hanging out with us for a good minute. Any last words? Any sign-offs? Got a sign-off yet?
Not yet. Still sticking with later.
I thought it was yip.
Is it yep?
I thought it was yip.
Then I'm getting confused.
All right. Well, anyways, out and out, brown cow. Thanks for watching, guys.
Later.